Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to episode 138 of the Sauce on the Side podcast. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Drake, joined by the man, the producer, Mr.
On
Leighton
the field.
Dip Chathamton.
Being quarantined is really boring. It's any more boring when you've also been laid off
Sports
recently.
talk,
Did you get
entertainment,
the
and more.
unemployment line before this giant crowd?
I'm working on it. Yeah, no,
I
no,
told
no,
you
no,
to
no, I hit it. I'm
Okay.
just waiting for them to get back to me.
The minute you messaged me that, I think my first thought was unemployment, baby.
Yeah, I've
Soak
been
it
in
up.
it. Just waiting. I'm working things out with that.
Okay.
I've been in it, though.
You're smoothing it over.
Yeah, I'm in it.
And as you hear, for our coronavirus series, we have Mr. Thomas R. Shackelford.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's staying safe.
Staying safe
Staying
indeed.
safe in the apocalypse.
Social distancing, I think every single show has been doing like Skype all the way up to like...
Are we the only one?
I think we're the only ones doing live in-home shows.
I almost recommended Skype, but screw it.
I mean, look,
I'm going to see you guys anyways.
me and Drake are healthcare professionals. You know, really, you're the
Show him
only one that
X-ray
should
tech.
be.
Let's not act like he been in nursing school for three years.
I 100% X-ray school, just as long as nursing school, clinicals just as much. I fully contend it's just as hard. The clear separation is if someone poos their pants while I have them, I take them to a nurse.
Take it to somebody that knows what they're doing.
Yes, I do not go near that stuff.
So for our quarantine episode, obviously we've been doing stuff different because we don't have a ton of sports. We will start off with the NFL free agency, really, because that's the only thing we have. We're going to talk a little bit about the UFC. Obviously, they had a fight last weekend, but this weekend that we just had, everything got shut down, so we're going to hit a little bit on that. Talk about our greatest movie athletes, so the GOAT of movie athletes. We're going to talk about some of the funny apocalypse trends that we've been noticing. It seems like everybody has lost their mind over the last week. What we've been doing since the coronavirus has hit, because we have absolutely no sports. And per Mr. Shackelford's request, we have the best female roles in Adam Sandler movies. So, right off the top, we have to lead the show off with this. Tom Brady is no longer a New England Patriot. He is now with the Buccaneers, officially signed. Everybody thought that they were going to pull the old Josh McDaniel trick where, Tom Brady acts like he's going to go somewhere else and then ultimately falls back into the hands of Bill Belichick. But now we have Tom Brady as a Buccaneer. I asked you guys to bring in something to compare Tom Brady being a Buccaneer to. Mr. Shackelford, we'll go ahead and let you take the cake on this one.
Look, we don't know quite yet what it's going to compare to. I'm going to give you two scenarios. You asked this question, and me not being the biggest sports dude ever.
Most casual sports fan.
Yeah, I would say. Well, I would say I probably know more about most sports than just a casual guy. But I would consider myself, because I'm not an egotistical asshole, I would say I'm casual as they come. You got the one scenario. It would be like Jordan going to the Wizards, or maybe even Jordan going to baseball. I don't know, but that's if Tom Brady is no good next year. Say he goes there and he's throwing ducks. He looks just absolutely abysmal. Then we've got that scenario, which I don't think Jordan looked abysmal when he played for the Wizards. I mean, everybody knew what it was, right? He owned a little bit of the team. He needed to get the stuff going. I think that's what it was.
It started the MJ to be a billionaire track.
Yeah. The other end of it, I guess you'd have to go with maybe like LeBron leaving Cleveland to go to the Miami Heat, right? So from what I understand, I guess Tampa Bay's got a pretty good team in place for him to jump in and do pretty well. I did see that the Super Bowl's in Tampa Bay this year. That would be pretty cool. I mean, I don't know if I'm stealing your guys' stuff here, but this is all that came to my head was, he's a guy that I think he's smart enough to know. This isn't like Brett Favre going to the freaking Jets.
No.
He went to the Jets and then he went to Minnesota. Everybody remembers Minnesota, where he was, a ball hair away from maybe, Super Bowl, where, again, we don't know if this is Favre going to the Jets or Favre going to Minnesota just yet. I guess that will be mine. Brett Favre, but we don't know if it's Favre at the Jets or Favre at Minnesota.
I'm going to compare it to The Longest Yard, when Paul Crewe went from the NFL to prison, and you became coach of the Mean Machine, and then they beat the Gods, because we know Buccaneers have athletes. We saw last year they needed some guys, some leadership. I think Paul Crewe brought to the inmates on the Mean Machine. That's what Tom Brady going to bring to Buccaneer players, and also the same colors. So it's always falling in line here for.
They just need to go all in to be the Mean Machine uniforms.
Didn't Goldberg just step back into pro wrestling? Goldberg could legitimately hop back in the NFL.
I think in the past year or so he did actually step into wrestling.
I watched SmackDown on Saturday or Sunday.
And
I watched
back
SmackDown,
at it?
and it was Saturday night. I watched SmackDown. He came out there with Roman Reigns, and they signed their contract to go ahead and fight, I guess, on the new WrestleMania, which they pulled an all-time wool over my eyes move. I saw WrestleMania 30. I have no idea which WrestleMania they're on, so I went ahead and
It was on ESPN, wasn't it?
Yes, I watched WrestleMania 30.
Okay, they almost tricked me, but I was like, no, this has got to be last year.
It was an old
It was in
WrestleMania.
2014.
I was so excited. I'm like, man, I'm going to watch this WrestleMania. We finally have live sports.
That's
Bam.
how hard up you are for sports
How
right
long
now.
did you watch it until you realized that?
As soon as I saw fans. I saw
Just have somebody's iPhone color in the crowd. Wait, that was like 5 years ago.
I saw The Rock. He comes walking out on stage, he comes walking out of the tunnel. First thing I see, I'm like, oh, The Rock's back. I'm like, we've got everything going. We've got Goldberg. We've got The Rock. We're ready to rock and roll. We've got live sports. Boom, they pan over to the crowd, and everybody's there. I'm like, this cannot be right. And then they end up saying, oh, this is from we're in the Superdome in New Orleans. I'm like, I was just in New Orleans, and I know they shut everything down. So this cannot be live. Boom, they got me. But the SmackDown that I watched on Saturday, no fans in the crowd. It was at the Performance Center in
they're still doing it.
WWE is weird without fans.
Yeah, to wait.
This would be like a
Hold on.
Shakespearean play with no audience. They're just running through rehearsals.
So we call it a movie.
But are they going all out? Like,
Oh, dude, they're still fighting.
So
They're getting after it.
I might have
if they
to
go
watch
to
this.
if they go to a concert and the band going all out, fireworks, everything, but there's no crowd out there, yeah, fucking shit on fire.
Imagine a U2 show with no fans whatsoever.
No, it was
Just
absolutely terrible.
Edge just going insane.
They have the
40-minute
fucking shit
solo.
down from the sky, everything's moving.
Dude, no, they were out there like, you know how, like, whenever they end up, like, getting a rope break or something, like, the one guy lays down and he gets on his knees and he, like, looks around at the fans and everybody's cheering? Well, they would still do that because Animal Instinct says that you have to pump up the fans, but there were no fans to pump up.
That's so weird.
It was such a weird experience, honestly. I watched that. We'll get to the quarantine stuff later because I had a rough weekend. But Tom Brady, I compare it to most. You remember the show I was telling you guys that I watched that I recommended to everybody, A Million Little Things to get through this?
Yeah. Mhm.
So in this movie, or in this show that I'm watching, there's a guy named Gary, and Gary's like a dude, you know. He's the friend that everybody has that does things his own way. He never has a girlfriend. He's the only bachelor out of all these guys, and he's the most realistic of all these characters. In fact, like, to where whenever stuff starts going bad, Gary's always the guy that just steps in and he's like, we have a bad situation, like, and he tells everybody how it is. Well, he ends up falling in love with this girl named Maggie. They end up getting together. They're together for a long portion of this show, becomes everybody's, in my opinion, should be everybody's favorite, like, love tale in this movie. Well, things happen. They end up having a little falling out. Gary ends up with another girl. The other girl's great, and everybody's basically, they're like, yeah, this girl's great for Gary, but he should be with Maggie. And that's exactly how I compare this Tom Brady thing to. It's a love tale of Tom and Bill, and both of them are too stubborn to go back and fall in love with the other one, even though both of them want each other in place, but they can't bend the knee enough to give up what they have. So they're like, all right, yeah, we'll just go ahead and move along and act like nothing happened here. And I compare it to a love tale of two individuals that should be together but just aren't at this point.
I like that. That was the most poetic. Here I am trying to rack my brains over a sports analogy, and you two do movies.
It's a beautiful tale.
What was the problem? Like Brady was he wanting more money, or do they just not have a whole lot of talent?
See, that's the thing. Nobody really knows. Like they had the money that they could make something work. They could make something work, but at the end of the day, they just didn't. And I feel like this is a scenario now where Bill was wanting Tom phased out just a few years ago with the whole Jimmy Garoppolo situation. That way he could transition straight to Garoppolo. The organization doesn't listen. They end up signing Tom to another deal. And then now we end up in this mess where, for the first time in his career, Bill Belichick, over 20-something years, has always moved on guys a year early rather than a year late. Now Bill's caught with his pants down 2 years late, and Patriots are left without a quarterback at this scenario.
Do they have anybody in the pipe? Do they have anybody?
The only guy that they have, well, they signed Brian Hoyer back, who's like old and terrible, and they end up having a guy on their roster, Jared Stidham. He got in one game this year. They were playing the Dolphins. They were absolutely housing the Dolphins. They were covering the spread by like 3 points. He throws a pick six. Brady comes back in. That's really the only game experience.
That's all. Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to hear you guys talk about football this year.
Oh, it's going to be interesting.
Not only just to be happy that sports are back on and it's football, but the Bears just signed Big Dick Nick, which I think is hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that he's on Drake's team, you understand Drake's old passion about how good Nick Foles is or could be. Like, you don't understand. Like, the fact that it's so ironic now that the Bears have him at this point.
I think the Bears have such a rabid fan base that I cannot wait for the shirts, the T-shirts that are going to come out if he does well.
How about the three-legged pants everybody will be wearing?
And then, your team's the Patriots. So
dude,
you've lived your whole life with a team with quarterbacks. Even if you can remember Drew Brees days, you remember having a capable quarterback.
Drew Bledsoe.
Or Bledsoe, I'm sorry. Yeah. So even if you remember Drew Bledsoe days, if you're that old to remember that, you're like, we had a very capable...
My Alexa keeps talking.
Yeah, the Alexa keeps talking. I honestly
it's the government. They're we're the only podcast still recording live. They're looking in on us right now.
Yeah, no, it's not good. It's not good. But no, Nick Foles of the Bears. This is what happens whenever I open my mouth too much. So Nick Foles, back in the day, ends up playing well for the Philadelphia Eagles. And everybody said it was just a flash in the pan, this guy was nothing. I stood on the throne and said, Nick Foles is a competent quarterback in the NFL. And what did I say, Leighton C? What can you do with Nick Foles?
Win a Super Bowl.
You can win a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. Nick Foles goes all over the country and plays quarterback terribly. Gets back to the team that he originally was, wins a Super Bowl. So now I'm sitting here like, I was right. Finally. It finally came to fruition. Nick Foles gets on a team that has athletes. You can win a Super Bowl with this guy. Now the Bears end up getting him. I've basically dug myself into this hole, and I have to stay there. Nick Foles will win a Super Bowl for the Chicago Bears.
You're calling it right now?
Calling it right now.
All right.
Honestly, it could be worse than we had last year.
No, exactly. And everybody says, like, oh, why would the Bears go out and get this quarterback who you have to pay for $20 million? $20 million is cheap in the quarterback market. You look at the cap hits on this, it's like 19, then 20, 26. Like, it does get bigger, but because it's a back-ended contract. But honestly, I think the Bears are in a spot where they can do this, and you have to do it. You cannot sit there and roll Mitch Trubisky out for another season.
Yeah, in the NFL, the teams really haven't won right now, and they could probably something that they can get out of that contract for like nothing somehow.
Oh yeah, the NFL contract.
They'll work some shit out.
Yeah, I watched more Bears games this year than I have since the Jay Cutler NFC Championship loss to the Packers.
Oh, that was rough.
And I thought they had a pretty solid team, but just from my untrained eye, it looked like Trubisky was a whipped dog.
Oh, yes.
There was opportunities, and then like he'd come off the field. He had a very Eli Manning face about him, just like dude.
The Eli Manning dumb face, where it's always the mouth's always open.
Like,
yes, somebody should be following him with a tuba, playing the Family Guy with the fat guy walking around with a
maybe he's not terrible, but he for sure doesn't have any confidence right now. And the confidence is almost as you need that as much as you need talent and talent around you. You know.
No, I am all on board for this Bears move. It's really the only thing you could do. You had to do something, and this was the only move that was left. We'll hit real quick the rest of some of these guys. There were obviously a lot of trades. DeAndre Hopkins, we hit on it last week. He gets traded. We end up getting more details from the trade. This news broke last week while we were doing the show. But you have DeAndre Hopkins and a 4th-round pick getting moved to the Cardinals for David Johnson, a 2nd and a 4th. What are your thoughts on this trade from both sides?
For the Cardinals, I like it.
You have to love it.
Because clearly they're not going to use David Johnson. They eventually attacking at Drake, so they said, hey, so we can get for David Johnson, and holy shit, DeAndre Hopkins this year. And we don't have to pay Kyle Murray for another 4 seasons. We can pay DeAndre Hopkins next season, and our offense can be really, really good.
This is the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. We have a guy named Bill O'Brien who last offseason traded for 2 running backs. In the NFL, you never trade for running backs. Bill O'Brien, this is the 3rd time he's done it in the last calendar year. He traded for Carlos Hyde. He traded for Duke Johnson. Now he's traded for David Johnson. And at this point, I'm just like, how in the world are we giving this guy general manager capacity whenever he is a terrible head football coach? You know how you make a head football coach worse that was already bad to begin with? Give him more responsibilities that he has to worry about. He spreads himself too thin, and bam, he gets rid of his best player, maybe in franchise history, and he brings in a 29-year-old running back that we don't even know if he's any good anymore. Probably the worst trade I've seen in my football life, because this isn't one of those things where, a trade comes back to bite a guy and a guy ends up being great. We already know DeAndre Hopkins is great, and at this point, we know that the shelf life for an NFL running back is up till the age of 30, so now you're going to get 1 serviceable year out of David Johnson at best, if he's even serviceable at all, and you get rid of a franchise player.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I'd love to just know what popped into Bill O'Brien's mind. Just, you know what? I'm going to trade DeAndre Hopkins today. And so he made some phone calls, and that's what he got back. He said, you know what? That's good enough. It's not going to have any longer.
It's unbelievable that they thought that was the most that they could get whenever you look at a trade like Stephon Diggs. So the Stephon Diggs trade, you get Stephon Diggs with a 7th-round pick, getting moved to Buffalo for a 1st-round pick in this draft, a 5th-round pick in this draft, a 6th-round pick in this draft, and a 4th-round pick for the following draft. So you have a 1st, a 4th, a 5th, and a 6th all getting moved just for Stephon Diggs. This is the dumbest trade with the exception of the DeAndre Hopkins trade, in my opinion. Am I wrong to say that?
No. So, I think the Bills gave up too much.
You think?
Yeah.
Because DeAndre Hopkins didn't even want out, and Stephon Diggs did want out.
Yeah, but I really, really like the Bills getting him. Because Josh Allen can't deep ball with his shit. But it can only help without getting better deep ball receivers. I had 2 of them. Stephon Diggs, the really receiver, going 8 down the route tree. So I really like the Bills getting him. But they gave him a 4th, 5th, 6th, and the 1st.
And a 1st.
If they could have just kept the 4th or the 5th, it would have been immensely better.
I think if they could have kept the 1st, that would have made it a fair trade. Because the 1st-round pick, if they would have just kept that 1st-round pick,
the 2nd or the 3rd too.
They could have gotten. They legitimately could have gotten a great wide receiver in the draft this year. This draft is the deepest wide receiver draft in NFL history. I don't know why you'd trade for a middle-of-the-road receiver, which is exactly what I think Stephon Diggs is. Hasn't even been the best wide receiver on his team.
Maybe that's what they think Henry Ruggs is going to be, or whoever theirs is going to be. Maybe they looked at it and said, no matter what happens, to the receiver here at pick number 20, 22, whatever pick they have, who's better? This guy or Stephon Diggs?
This was
and
terrible.
Then they don't value any 4th-round pick. But you know what? Doug Marrone and who the GM said does some really good things in Buffalo, though. Like, Buffalo,
they've done a lot better than what their talent is.
Yeah, Buffalo was terrible 3 years ago.
No.
They were picking the draft 3 years ago.
But I think this is one of those trades that just puts you right back to where you were.
I think it'd be good. Well, they're going to the division this year, so they got that going for them.
I don't know, man. Miami Dolphins. They're actually got some winning talent on the team.
They have 2 cornerbacks.
And they have a good head coach.
They have a good head coach.
We'll see.
And forgot Adam Gase.
We'll see. Let's go ahead and move on to some running backs here. We have Melvin Gordon signing a deal with the Broncos. We have Todd Gurley, the most cautionary tale in NFL history at the running back position, gets released, signs with the Falcons. Do either of these moves really move the needle for you at all?
It makes the Rams worse because now they're paying Todd Gurley not to be on the team. So for that aspect, them worse. The Falcons, if Todd Gurley is healthy, which he's not going to be because he has arthritis. He doesn't have a knee injury. He has a knee issue.
Yes, there's a huge difference there.
Like, they're never going to heal. It's just going to continue to get worse.
It's Jay Ajayi 2.0.
Yeah. But, no. Falcons, if he's healthy for him, great offense, be fantastic, but he's just not going to be.
Exactly. If you're getting a healthy Todd Gurley, this offense now becomes the most unstoppable force in football. Mm-hmm. I understand that they don't have the tight end. They end up signing, or they traded for Hayden Hurst, so that does help fill the tight end role a little bit. Just because, a couple of years ago, he was a first-round pick. The guy is athletically all there. Let's see if they can make it work. Dirk Cutter can make any tight end work, so it will work. Mm-hmm. But you look at this Todd Gurley signing, it just makes no sense. Like, you have a guy, Todd Gurley's only like 25 years old.
Yeah.
And now he's, coming off of a year where he had like 3.7 yards per carry, only had 800 yards rushing.
Didn't even play that much.
He didn't even play that much, and you're getting a very, very banged up running back. Basically, Todd Gurley's knees are that of a 40-year-old running back, so I don't like that move. And then the Broncos signing Melvin Gordon makes absolutely no sense because you look at the 1-2 punch that they had. You could obviously make the argument that over the last 2 years, Philip Lindsay has been more useful than Melvin Gordon because I don't get it. Melvin Gordon, he's supposed to be this between the tackle runner, which over the last 2 years, Melvin Gordon's been, I think I read the 31st best yards per carry between the tackles out of any running back in the NFL, which is terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. You're getting, there's 32 starting running backs in the NFL. He's one of the worst running between the tackles, and that's what he's supposed to be good at. They go ahead and they get Royce Freeman. They try to make that work. That doesn't work. You Philip Lindsay, a guy who's an undrafted free agent that you're getting for pennies on the dollar. Now you're going to phase him out for a guy who's going to be making first-round money.
Yeah.
I don't like either of those signings. I think both of those running backs, their best years are behind them.
Well, we both know Melvin Gordon is a product of volume. He's very inefficient when he gets the ball. He watches a ton of games, but doesn't get that many yards or touchdowns, something like that. Maybe they're thinking, if we can trade Philip Lindsay and Freeman, give him all the touches that they got, we'll be fine.
It's just, this is John Elway striking again. Yep. That's all it is.
But they cut Joe Flacco. No one saw that coming last year.
Yeah, Joe Flacco. That was a great signing, too. This is going to be another case of the Joe Flacco where you get a guy outside of his prime, you try to make it work, and you have a guy who's better there, who's making a whole lot less money, and then a year from now, we'll revisit it, and then Melvin Gordon's going to be on another team. Mm-hmm. All right, so... Oh, by the way, just fantasy note, go ahead and write down Darrell Henderson because everybody needs to be drafting him. Rams running back is going to be a stud. Next up, we got a couple quarterbacks here. Actually, a few quarterbacks. We have Phillip Rivers signing with the Colts. I am unbelievably happy about this because this Colts roster screams I can play close with any team. That means that I am going to get Phillip Rivers 16 games this year playing one-score games against the whole NFL.
And, yeah, this is not the most favorite place for him to go.
This is the best. This is the best case scenario.
Not only best fit, but just Indianapolis area for Phillip Rivers.
Oh no, dude!
This is the life he wants to live.
No, Phillip Rivers is honestly, because if you think about places that Phillip Rivers probably should have played his whole entire NFL career, Cleveland or Indianapolis should be the first two that you think of.
Absolutely, Cincinnati's in there too. Any place in the Midwest, any place in that Midwest, Nashville maybe down there. Yeah, any place like that, a lot of farmland, he can get out there and go. This is perfect fit for Phillip Rivers on a ton of levels.
Oh yeah, just more than football. I think that this actually is going to work. I think it's going to work because Phillip Rivers will finally have time to sit in the pocket and throw. Everybody says, well, he couldn't make it work with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. You look at those guys, those are, with the exception of Keenan Allen, everybody else on that roster, Tyrell Williams, which he had 2 years ago, you have Mike Williams, all those guys are downfield receivers, which Phillip Rivers had no time to throw, and he doesn't have the arm strength to do it. Now you get guys who can get in and out of cuts real fast with Deion Kane, Paris Campbell, T.Y. Hilton. I think this is something that's going to work, and I think that the Colts, right now, may have the best quarterback in that division.
No, Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson, okay. Well, but we're getting Deshaun Watson now without DeAndre Hopkins, which was a huge factor.
In my personal opinion, I think Phillip is washed. I don't think it's going to work out. But if it does, I'm not always surprised. But I don't think it will. I think he's washed.
I hope it works out because I got to have close games. All right, Panthers, real quick. We have Teddy Bridgewater and PJ Tucker both signing to the Panthers. This is the first tale of a player going from the XFL to the NFL. Do you like both of these signings?
I know watch PJ Walker play in the XFL. But
He's very good. I can promise you that.
Okay, he's good. I'll believe it. Teddy Bridgewater, he got paid for, 7 games?
Oh, yeah. 7 games in the last, 6 years.
7 games with Sean Payton, with Alvin Kamara, and Michael Thomas to offense. Okay, so he goes to the Panthers with McCaffrey. It's really McCaffrey's team.
DJ Moore, he's fine.
DJ Moore's good too, and the coach handles usable. But really, McCaffrey's team, so long as he can hand the ball off or pass it or pitch it, get the ball in his hands, he'll be fine.
No, I 100% agree there. I think this is going to work because Bridgewater is a very smart quarterback. PJ Tucker, I think this is going to be PJ Walker. This is going to be a situation where I think they're going to use a little bit of 2 quarterbacks. You look back at Matt Rule back whenever he was with Temple. His starting quarterback for Temple, which is what springboarded him to get the job in Baylor, was PJ Walker. So I think this is going to work. I think we're going to see PJ Tucker actually play a little bit because he is a mobile quarterback. Mm-hmm. He can move a lot better than what Bridgewater can. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be like a 50-50 split, but I think that they are actually going to try to implement some stuff to where they use the second quarterback because I don't know why they would want to bring him in, especially with Rule having some kind of rapport there with him, without the intentions of using him in some capacity, because the guy actually is I think he's a serviceable quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
All right, last one, Manuel Sanders to the Saints. Obviously, the last few seasons, the Saints have not had a second receiving option outside of Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. Now you get Emmanuel Sanders. Does this how much better do you think this makes the Saints?
I think it makes them a lot better because you have a guy, Michael Thomas, who got 144 passes with no second option last year because Traquan Smith, Ted Ginn, they're basically all just flash in the pan guys.
Yes.
They're gonna have a game, maybe a play.
It's all 4 or 5 games where they catch one ball for 60 yards and score.
That's where Michael Thomas took 144 balls. Sanders has to actually take some covers away. Franco Thomas. It's a great move for the Saints.
Oh, yeah. If you think of things that the Saints could have done to make themselves better just with one signing of a guy on an average NFL salary, this is it. Because I saw a stat, I think it was the last 8 seasons, there's only been 5 or 6 guys that have had 500 receiving yards in every season. Emmanuel Sanders is on that list. And the Saints don't have to have a guy who's going to be a perennial 1,000-yard receiver. All they need is a guy to catch 500 yards worth of offense, and now your offense gets upgraded a whole letter grade almost because you actually have a second guy that can catch passes. I think if the Saints go into the draft, they get a guy that can, extend the field, maybe, run down and catch a deep ball or 2 out of the draft with the first round pick because there are so many wide receivers in this draft. The Saints offense could be the best offense in the NFL next year if they get another high level receiver, which the Saints typically haven't drafted receivers well. With the exception of Michael Thomas. So we'll honestly see how this works, but I think this is going to be huge for the Saints this upcoming season. So, Mr. Shackelford, the UFC ends up canceling all of their events for the next 3 weeks. Is it the next 3?
Yeah. Yep. The only thing we've had, Cage Warriors over in London actually just had an event Friday night, I think it was. It snuck up on me. I thought they were all canceled.
I thought everything was canceled.
It did air on UFC Fight Pass. They're not a UFC company. Paddy Pimblett is a dude on there that I've thought for a couple years he could get could get into the UFC. He's had a couple hiccups. He lost to Soren Bach. Lost his title to Soren Bach maybe a year ago, and then he's missed some fights here and there. But we might be seeing him in the UFC soon. Really, the only thing of note besides that, everything shut down on Saturday. They did do a 12-hour time block of a bunch of fights. It was pretty cool.
I watched them all.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
I watched part of one of my. They really did good. If you're going to get an MMA MMA, they did like the top 25 countdown. Two of some of the best fights ever. The Robbie Lawler McDonald 2.
I honestly think that was one of the best
That
fights.
stare down at the end of the fourth, man. Whenever they're just standing there looking at each other, just one of the most intense moments you can ever see in any sport. And then I watched part of the Dan Henderson Shogun fight, which it's basically, just I remember I had a
Dan
friend
Henderson
message me
ever.
after it happened. Maybe 2 weeks later, my friend messaged me. He said, "So did anybody die in this fight?" Because by the end of it, you thought these two old dudes maybe have murdered each other. That was pretty cool. The big thing, Dana White is still saying Tony and Khabib's on. We've not heard anything to the contrary. I'm going to make a little bit of a bold prediction. I read last night that Khabib, so they both are in California. Tony trains at his own gym, like he has built his own gym, like an outdoor gym.
An American Ninja Warrior gym.
Basically. He's got his own gym. He does his own thing, so I'm sure he's fine. Khabib has been at AKA. Javier Mendez said that gym is closed 22 hours of the day. The only 2 hours it's open is when Khabib's there, and it's just Khabib, his 2 or 3 training partners, and Mendez. So that's the only people training there. They keep
Chad Mendez?
Javier Mendez.
Javier Mendez.
Did I say Chad Mendez?
No, but I was thinking, whenever you said Mendez, that's
yeah,
what I went to.
Yeah, Javier Mendez. I just read last night that he is returning to Russia to finish out his camp. I'm going to make a little bit of a bold prediction here. Vegas, it won't have the UFC right now. The U.S., man, we're getting ready to go on full lockdown. I don't want to get into the shit. There's a million other shows out there that are just harping on it. A lot of those big cities that it's hitting the hardest are not listening to the stuff. They're still out and about. I think California is going to shut down. I think New York, all those big venues that you might be able to get some production value in a small place. I think this is going to go to Russia, because who won't care if there's everybody in the crowd has corona? Vladimir Putin. And Khabib's already going there. Khabib's already going there. I think Tony Ferguson's a dude that if they called him up and said, it's only going to happen if it happens in Russia. Pick 2 coaches and fly. I think he's a guy that does it
by himself, though. He won't take anybody with him.
He may not even take a corner. He's that wild, man. I don't doubt. Right now, I'm not doubting this fight. I think this is going to be one of those fights that it's only a 1-fight card. How crazy is that? I'm predicting it's going to be in Russia. It's going to be a 1-fight card.
You really think so?
I think so. I think that this fight is that important to Dana White and those guys. This will be the 5th time. Think about that. 5 times. 4 times before. And it was canceled. One time he missed weight and went into liver failure. One time there was a back injury. One time there was a knee injury. The other time was another weight issue. And now there's a pandemic going on. This has to. I think this fight has to happen for the pandemic to be over. I'm saying it now.
This is the final boss.
This is it. This is Mike Tyson Punch Out.
Yeah, I really think that this could possibly be the final boss, to where we get ourselves into a position once Tony Ferguson beats Khabib, he eradicates the coronavirus.
Could be. I don't want to say there's a lot of Cold War implications here, but, could be.
So, do you really think that they could go as far as just to make it 1 card?
I think
one
so.
fight card.
I'm not the only person that thought of that. There's other bigger people than me online, with blue check marks and stuff they're like, man, how crazy it'd be. Like, I think we just need to do it 1 thing. I didn't steal that from him. In my head, whenever all this stuff was going, I was like, man, they can't have, in California right now or Vegas, they have that 10 people rule. When they did it in Brazil,
only have 3 people here, in case you're wondering.
Yeah, we only got 3. Mountain and Hound aren't here either. Pets don't count anyways. When they did it in Brazil, it was like 100 people. So they did a show, a very well produced show with less than 100 people in the room at one time. They even knocked that down to 50. and they were still going to run the Woodley and those guys' shows in Vegas. They were confident they can do it. When they knocked it down to 10, they just weren't sure they were going to be able to pull it off.
This fight has to happen.
I really think so. I think a 2-fight card, just a 1-fight card, 2 fighters, I think you could do it. I think they could get a couple camera guys in there, maybe one or 2 announcers, and then you have the 2-fighter. You know, once you have your doctors and judges in there, I think you can get it under 10 people. And like I said, if they do it in Russia, Putin makes his own rules.
Yeah.
I mean, have you heard of anything going on in Russia?
No, not yet.
You know, I don't want to say it. This isn't funny at all, but the Kim Jong-un guy, did you hear about that?
No.
There was one person that had the confirmed coronavirus in North Korea. Shot him dead.
Are you serious?
Shot the bastard dead. Again, that was what was going around the internet. It said one confirmed in North Korea. They stopped that real quick. So
that's real?
I read it online. It could be fake.
That's clickbait.
That's as far as I wanted to go into it. It was as trusted news source as you can get in these days. But that's the level Putin is. Like, if, you know, we're not putting it past the dude just to be like, oh, Corona what? Pa-pa! You know. So I think this fight is going to go on. I think it's going to be a 1-fight card. And it's going to be a gnarly show. As of now, I'm predicting it goes on.
All right, yeah. I just need something that I can
We're
watch.
about a month away.
I just need something I can watch.
So we're just a shade under a month away.
All right. Well, if we just get the 1 fight, I'll make a whole evening of this.
Oh yeah,
I'll be all about it. I'll probably watch the fight 6 or 7 times. All right. So any what?
Oh, I'm sorry.
What were you gonna say?
I'm watching the SmackDown with no fans right now on my phone.
Is it not weird?
Yeah, it's especially weird since it opened up with John Cena returns, and then Jeff Hardy is back. They're bringing to the biggest thing for this year. No fans. I can postpone these.
No, it's awesome. Whenever you see a guy out there who's got another dude in the headlock, and like there's nobody out there to cheer him on, and it's just like,
this camera angle is great too.
Let me see it.
So like it's in like a performance center, so it's a small like auditorium. They can't get the high camera angle.
Oh yeah,
it's like straight from the side.
Oh yeah, that's it.
I love it.
Just another practice, baby.
By the way, have you guys seen? I watched Beyond the Mat on Netflix the other night. You ever seen that one?
Mm-hmm.
That's a must see. That's a pro wrestling must see. Beyond the Mat. It's from like 1999. Vice is coming out with a new like the dark stories of wrestling with the Chris Benoit and Owen Hart and like all. It looks tremendous, man. You know what? Watching Beyond the Mat. It brought me back a little nostalgia because those were the times when I was watching around 98, 99 is when I was the biggest into it. You got Mick Foley, The Rock, Stone Cold, D-Generation X is still around.
You forgot about Dude Love.
Dude Love was in there. Mankind was in there.
You forgot about Mankind, yes, I was going to say.
So,
Mick Foley.
Cactus Jack.
Cactus Jack.
Yeah. Which, by the way, Mick Foley was my all-time favorite wrestler. It had all.
Imagine that the guy with the long hair.
He looks just like I grew up
in the portly build. Loved Mick Foley.
Grew up to be just like him. It brought me a little nostalgia, but now that we know a lot of those guys aren't doing so well in life, a lot of those guys, and that's the Vice one. A lot of those dudes are in that Attitude Era, so it's going to be a little wild. Even in Beyond the Mat, it highlights Jake the Snake Roberts and some other people that were already doing very bad at life at the time. It makes you think that although those guys did, if they were very good, they did get compensated really, really well. But man, they were on the road wrestling 230 nights a year. Makes me feel a little guilty.
For rooting on all those years.
Just watching it, man, nobody loved wrestling as much as I did back then. And now I look back and be like, God, their family lives were terrible. Very few of them had good family lives or do have good family lives.
Have you ever seen Fight With My Family?
No.
Okay. I have.
It's a movie on WBE.
I've seen it.
About wrestling. The family and of wrestlers, and they had promotion things.
Oh,
and
I remember the previews for this.
Yeah, and two of the brother and sister go to the WWE tryout thing. The sister gets taken. She finds she's not as hot as the mom's doing it. She had disadvantage, but she works hard and strives through it and gets it done. It's funny. They act like Dwayne Johnson, the main character, in it for literally 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But I get people to the theater to see it somehow.
Well,
No, it's actually a pretty decent
I'll have
movie.
to. I remember the previews for
It's
it.
how I imagine Shackelford's family growing up. It's how I imagine it would be.
No, I was. My parents. If as long
Windowless vans
as-
picking up a bunch of kids to go wrestle.
as long
So
as
then we went through tables in the living room.
as long as football season wasn't on, my parents would let me watch wrestling. But if there was anything remotely on that was even like, hey, there's a 1-year episode of Seinfeld playing, we ain't watching wrestling tonight, And I had 2 weird households, divorced family. One household wanted to watch, if I did get to watch wrestling, I had to watch WCW because at the time that's where Macho Man and Hogan and all those the ones that my parents remembered were still wrestling, and then at the other house I could watch WWF because they thought it was all goofy anyways. So as long as they weren't going to be in the living room, I got to watch what I wanted. So weird vibe there. You were either WCW or WWF, and I was firmly just between both.
Yeah, you walked around with this, those shirts where they it says like split household, and they got like a Cubs shirt, a Cardinal shirt. You were walking around back circa 1998. Little Shackelford walking to school with the long hair. He had it said split household, WCW, WWF, Worlds Collide.
That's right. That was exactly it.
All right, so let's go ahead and get to. I think this is the staple of this show. This is probably going to be our longest segment. The greatest athlete in movie history. So last week we were trying to, think of things that we could talk about. We're going to try to crown the GOAT of movies as far as an athlete. All right, so Mr. Shackelford, we're going to let you go first. Give us your first guy. I'm going to write all these down. And how do you guys want to do this? Do you just want to just muddle over these, or do you want to try to crown one at the end of this whole thing?
I think we go down, we rank them, I have 5, 5 through 1, and then we have the same ones, we added those ones out. And then there's some bullshit debate at the end. There's the debate of spot 4 or 5.
Okay, so we'll try to give us our best ones. So let's go ahead, Mr. Shackelford, give us your pitch for your first athlete.
My first athlete, Steve Prefontaine, Without Limits. If there's a movie I need to watch where I need uplifted or I need to get an extra workout in, hands down, Steve Prefontaine, Without Limits.
I've actually watched that movie.
So have I. Awesome.
Isn't that it's impressive whenever I can actually say that I've watched the
You've
movie.
seen it? Yeah.
Good movie.
It's about obviously Steve Prefontaine, his build up through high school, his build up through college, and then subsequently the Olympics, which he did not medal in, and then, as the old saying goes, it's better to burn out than to fade away. He'll always be remembered. There's a lot of American track athletes who ran better times than him over the years. You don't remember any of their names.
I have one argument.
What's that?
Your greatest athlete cannot be a runner.
Why?
That's not an athlete.
Hold
It's not a
on.
sport.
No.
It's not a sport.
Till the day I die, I've been helping out. I won't say I've coached wrestling team. I've been helping out at wrestling gyms since 2004. There's 2 athletes that I would take over any other athlete on this planet. Can you guess them, Leighton C? Drake already knows what I'm about to say.
Paintballers and skateboarders.
No. Runners, long distance runners, and skateboarders.
Skateboarders are number 1.
I will take those 2 kids over any athlete any day of the week. Hands down, the hardest workers and the toughest kids you will see. Drake cannot argue with that.
A skateboarder, yes. I'm going
Drake did-
paintballers for 2.
Paintballers.
Jake Austin wrestled in high school, did neither of those. But he's still a pretty wrestler, so
Drake's an anomaly in the sport of wrestling.
I just can't. I'm not
he
an
had
athlete.
a good family. He had a good family. He didn't skateboard, and he wasn't a runner. All the other really, really good
My
wrestlers
medal
I
collection
ever
would
knew.
say different. In 8th grade, I got 8th place at the state track meet in the mile.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah.
What was your time?
5:13.
See,
5:16.
that's not bad at all.
I think it was 5:16
That's
at
not
the
bad
state
at all.
meet. Yeah.
I hands down, you can't take away my top athlete.
Okay. No.
You know,
I
okay,
actually
I'm
do
going
like
to move on to number 2.
it. Okay.
Steve Prefontaine in the movie Prefontaine. This was the Disney version. This was the Disney version. Still my second favorite sports movie. You have to watch these two back to back. When I told Leighton about these movies, I gave him both movies and told him he had to watch them
Did you
back
watch
to
both?
back.
Back to back, yeah.
Was it good?
Yeah.
Which was better?
Not the Disney one.
Not the Disney one.
No.
So
Okay.
Without Limits, to me, Billy Crudup, best one. Prefontaine, what's his name? The 30 Second to Mars guy. I'm slipping.
Jared
Leto. Also a very good Prefontaine. Just a shade under.
All right. So Prefontaine's head-to-head, though, we're going with Without Limits.
Exactly.
Okay.
My third athlete, which would also go into my 4 and 5, is Rocky.
Rocky. Okay.
I don't
have
think-
Rocky, too.
Okay, Rocky. You pick a Rocky. 1
3, 4,
through
5?
5.
No, he's just, dude, he had the series. He's just an athlete.
Exactly.
No,
athlete all the way. And some of them he's lifting like, he's just doing push-ups, drinking eggs, going for jogs. Next one he's freaking going nuts. He's
chasing chickens.
going back. He's chasing chickens.
He's hitting meat in the locker.
Yeah, next one is training's not so good. Then Apollo gets him. Apollo says, "You're going old school. We're running on the beach. We're fighting." Then the next one he gets a little more technical, but then he's got to fight freaking Thunderlips. No, Thunderlips was Hulk Hogan. It was
Clubber Lang.
Clubber Lang, and then fourth one he's fighting Drago. He goes from he can fight anybody, he can fight any athlete, he can train any way, he's gonna win, except for Balboa and
All right, real
Rocky
quick.
won.
Debate. Okay, we're gonna crown Mr. Shackelford's best athlete. We got head-to-head Prefontaine from Without Limits or Rocky.
Rocky.
I'm gonna say the heart wants to pick Prefontaine. He held so many records. He might still hold some records for the youth age groups, but I don't know how he could beat Rocky
No, he can't beat Rocky
in any sport.
No,
I think if you lined him up in 10 sports, Rocky wins 9 of them.
and I honestly think that if they set him up, what was Prefontaine's best run? What was his bread and butter? Was it like a mile, 2 mile? What was his best thing?
I think it was the 2 mile.
Okay.
It's not a full 2 mile. It's like whatever 3,200 or 1,600 meters. It's something
Okay,
like that.
so let's say
he's a 2 miler.
let's say this is even Prefontaine's sport, okay? Because we know if they boxed, Rocky would tear him up. Rocky tears everybody up. If there was a 2 mile race, okay, it was through the city of Philadelphia, and you had to end by running up the stairs. Who wins, Rocky Balboa or Steve Prefontaine?
Rocky.
Rocky wins.
Rocky burns him to dust.
So head-to-head in Prefontaine's sport, if you give the right conditions, Rocky's going to win that. So I have to say Rocky is the better athlete
I
out
will
of
give
the two.
you Rocky. I will give you Rocky.
So we have Rocky is Mr. Shackelford's greatest athlete of all time.
I've never seen all the Rocky movies.
You haven't?
No. I've seen
Dude, why haven't you been watching these?
I've had no way to ever watch them. I've seen the first one.
I know Mr.
And the
Shackelford
second
probably
one.
has all of them.
I've seen the first one and the fourth one.
I don't have all of them. I've seen all of them.
But if you want a Steven Seagal movie,
Yeah, how did I not pick old Seagal? The only one I haven't seen is Creed 2, which I liked Creed 1. I just haven't gotten around to seeing
how do you
Creed
have every Seagal movie, but you don't have every
2. My
Rocky
friend
movie?
gave me the Seagal movies.
It's honestly
He was the
shocking
Seagal
how many
guy.
of those you had.
He was the Seagal guy.
Yeah, but you have the movies.
No, I gave him to Leighton.
Yeah, but they were yours.
They were mine for a very
How
short
long, like
period of
9?
time.
How did I count 9?
I think I kept like 3 of them. I kept the ones that I remembered watching
Of
the
course
most.
you did.
Yeah.
So you had double-digit
Seagal movies, yeah, and only one. I only have Rocky 1. I know.
Okay, so we need to do this. Latency by next episode. You need to give us an in-depth analysis on the Rocky Balboa series.
You ain't got shit else to do.
I have school, but
You still got schoolwork.
yeah, John A. Yeah, college goes now just online. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I thought they were shutting down.
Yeah, no, I think Latency needs to make the best attempt to watch all the Rockies before next weekend. Even I've seen them.
I've never had an opportunity to. I've seen the first one on HBO, but I'm only watching that one. Then I've seen the fourth one when I was way younger. But other than that, I haven't had a chance to watch them.
No, it's a must-watch. Rarely do I say a series is a must-watch. The Rocky series is a must-watch. All right. So let's go ahead and get to Leighton C's guy. So who is your? Go ahead and spew out your athletes and give us some reasonings.
Okay, so this one I had to take off the list after I made the list. I realized that golf was not a sport, but I had on there Ty Webb, who's from Caddyshack, Chevy Chase's character.
So you want to put him on?
No, it's
Okay.
not, golf is not a sport.
Okay. Okay.
So Ty Webb did not count, but Ty Webb. What's up, Shaq?
That's what he does on.
Yeah,
That's what he does in the movie.
yeah.
You should have saw it. Okay, for everybody that's not
Leighton just looked at me like I did drugs in the restroom when I
No.
was going.
That was creepy. All
Yeah, it was.
right, so all right, first athlete. Who you got?
Paul Crew. I talked about him. Went
Okay,
to
so
NFL,
I actually had Paul Crew as well. So continue.
And went to Mean Machine.
Which one do you want? Do you want Adam Sandler or do you want Burt Reynolds?
Oh, Adam Sandler.
See, I liked Burt Reynolds better.
Okay. Well, each his own. Number 4, I have Willie Beeman. He's the quarterback from Any Given Sunday. Stepped into the offense. Totally changed the offense. Changed the league.
Okay.
Almost made Cameron Diaz sell the team. Let's see.
Hold on, what movie?
Any Given Sunday.
Is that movie not a joke to you guys?
That movie's awesome.
So I was alive when that movie came out.
Yeah, it came out in
and it was
99.
one of the worst sports movies of all time.
What?
I like it.
Minus the speech that Al Pacino gives at the end.
That's what I was
You
gonna
can
say.
erase the entire movie except for the 1 3-minute speech.
That's what history has
and
done.
This is a couple times that Leighton has mentioned this movie, and in my head I just clicked that like, oh shit, this is a really good movie to these guys.
I like it, yeah.
The dude's eyeball gets hit out.
Isn't that awesome?
When that happened, I was like, this is the worst football movie of all time.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You really don't like it?
No, I don't. I watched it one time 25 years ago,
Revisit.
but I've listened to the Al Pacino speech like a
25,000 times.
You know what,
Yes.
Whenever Mr. Shackelford's getting ready for his workout, he pops in both Prefontaine movies, and then he pops in the Any Given Sunday. Fast forwards to the speech,
Just the speech.
and then by the time that all that's done, he's like, "Well, I don't even have time to work out now."
I've sweated enough.
Next I have By the Common Man for the Common Man, Peter LaFleur from Dodgeball.
Okay. I like this.
Under Joe's gym, the Go Battle Globo gym. That's just a true underdog story, man. Like, if you're a professional athlete, go watch Dodgeball and tell me you're not inspired by that
yeah.
movie.
And I actually like this because if you think about what every single thing that it takes to be an athlete points you to being a good dodgeball player.
It does. Dodgeball is a sport. We talked about it before.
You have to be quick, you have to be fast, you have to be able to throw, you have to be able to catch, you have to be able to run. Everything that it takes to be a good athlete. And Peter LaFleur was one of the greatest athletes of all time on dodgeball. So I actually like this one a lot.
I have, let's see, another one. This guy got time cut short due to a concussion by his lineman, Lance Harbor from Varsity Blues. He's going to be the next John Elway. Fell short due to knee injury.
What's the last name,
that-
Harbor?
Harbor.
That
Okay.
movie's a
Paul Walker.
10. That
Great
movie's a
movie.
10.
That movie, the first time I ever saw boobs in a movie.
Oh hell yeah!
I was like 7 or 8, and I was with my sister, and she forgot that part was in there.
Wasn't he number 69?
No,
I don't think
Billy
you-
Bob. Yeah, Billy
Billy
Bob,
Bob
was.
was.
Yeah.
I watched that in the movie theater. Actually, that was one of the best movies I've ever seen.
You ever
in the
seen
theater.
that? Did anybody see the picture of the kid going trick or treating dressed up as a
all-time best costume?
I think that kid might be the best athlete out of the whole movie.
And then, we got Wild Thing, Rick Vaughn from Major League.
Oh yeah.
Brother than Throw Seat.
Okay, yeah, I actually like that one a lot too. All right, so you have. Let's just go ahead and get this off the table first. We'll go ahead and pick a quarterback here: Paul Crew, Adam Sandler, or Willie Beeman. Any Given Sunday.
Willie Beeman Any Given Sunday.
Even the name is terrible. I'm really beaming.
What do you think, Paul Crew, Willie Beeman? Who you picking?
Or Lance Harbor.
Oh wait, yes, we do have a third football guy. So, or you can throw Lance Harbor in there. You like Willie Beeman out of
I
those
gotta
three?
say, Beeman. You know, quarterbacks are famously not traditionally athletes.
Okay, so we'll go Willie Beeman. All right, so we got Peter LaFleur from Dodgeball or Rick Vaughn from Wild Thing.
Both throw heat.
Both throw heat.
I'm gonna
Both
go,
throw the
I'm gonna
gas.
I'm
go
gonna go
Vaughn. Okay. I was gonna go Vaughn.
I'm going Peter LaFleur.
Okay, there
Because
you
it
go.
takes more. Because, okay, throwing is what a pitcher does. That's just
More
part
it's
of
more
what a
like
dodgeball
trick.
player does.
It's more like a trick.
Yes.
Okay, I can see it.
Yeah, more athletic, you have to go with Peter
got
LaFleur.
it.
So, last up here, to crown Leighton's guy, to get him into the three-man Royal Rumble, we have Peter LaFleur from Dodgeball or Willie Beeman from Any Given Sunday. Every time I say the name Willie Beeman, I'm like, dude, I'm thinking, I think I'm missing out on a joke here. Because, like, he has the name Willie. Like, Willie is always the first name of a guy that you throw in a last name, and it just makes it a funny joke.
For sure. You gotta go Beeman, right? LaFleur, although he's doing more in dodgeball, I suppose, he's not bodied up. I mean, he's
really. Well, what they kept in that offense, strengthened the whole team. Say that Patino's job, and they went to Florida next season. Yeah, Willie Beeman.
Willie Beeman. Okay.
Willie Beeman.
So Leighton C's guy is Willie Beeman from Any Given Sunday. All right, boys. So I have a few athletes here. I'm going to go ahead and start it off. So I don't have Rocky anymore because Leighton C had that one. I do have Paul Crewe, but I'm going Burt Reynolds, Paul Crewe. And the reason why, we can't. Okay, I'll even take it a step further. I won't just say Paul Crewe. I will say Burt Reynolds, longest yard. Okay? Because you not only are getting the quarterback that dethroned the guards, but you're also getting the coach who came back and did the same thing.
Ooh.
And he even scored a touchdown in that game, if I'm not mistaken. So we have a guy who's a trans. What are we looking at here?
Easy.
What's the word I'm looking for? Transcendental?
I have the G.
Where he spanned multiple decades. He went from being a hero to men who are now 40 years old to come back and be the hero for me whenever I was 10 years old. So I have
looking like
Burt Reynolds.
Colonel, by the way.
I have Burt Reynolds from Longest Yard. Both of them. And then I also have Happy Gilmore. Not only was Happy Gilmore a great hockey player, but he was also a great golfer. Now, Leighton C did say that golf is not a sport, but we're also talking about a guy who could step into the hockey arena and still perform at a high level.
To be clear, he was not a golfer. He was a hockey player.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He made that abundantly clear throughout the movie.
And so Burt Reynolds, where he went over multiple decades of being a high-level athlete, Happy Gilmore went into two separate sports and was a high-level athlete at both sports. And my third one, I have Air Bud.
I've never seen one of them.
You've never seen it? Have you seen all the Air Buds?
I've seen the first Air Bud, and I'm scarred for life because of the scene where the coach was throwing the basketball at the kid couldn't hold on to the ball. That scene has scarred me for life. I had nightmares about that scene.
Did you really?
Yeah.
So you were soft. I loved Air Buds.
Which one?
Every single one of them. You have Air Bud. So Air Bud, he not only was a high-level basketball
I think
player.
there's legitimately like 400 at this point. There's no way you've seen all
Because he's
of
that good of an athlete. He was a great basketball player, a great football player, a great soccer player, a great baseball player, and a great volleyball player. Now, the Air Buds, after the volleyball episode, started to get a little crazy. And they started getting out of the sports realm, and they were just doing all kinds of different stuff. There's like 5 million Air Buds.
In one of them.
Yeah, there was like 5 million Air Buds in this whole series. But I'm just going after the first 5, where he was not only good at basketball, but football, soccer, baseball, and volleyball. Air Bud, I think, is the greatest athlete of all time because he was able to compete at a high level throughout
history.
Drake, I gotta challenge this year.
What is it?
We've said for almost 3 years now, almost 2 years now, that sports cannot involve animals.
Correct.
But the animal who played the sports is considered the best athlete of all time.
Yes, I do think so. You could honestly come in here. It wasn't Seabiscuit a movie?
Yes.
You could say Seabiscuit was one of the best athletes of all time. In fact, I'll throw him on here. We could throw in Seabiscuit because he was a great athlete. And I've said on here before that you cannot have an athletic competition if it includes animals. But the animals themselves, we have said, can be considered athletes. Mm-hmm. So, the debate. Burt Reynolds from The Longest Yard, Happy Gilmore. Who do you have?
Happy Gilmore.
You're picking Happy Gilmore?
I was gonna go Burt.
I'm going Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
I think this is a slam dunk.
And not to sound weird, I guess it's not weird. Burt Reynolds, one of the all-time bodied up dudes, right?
Yes.
Just a man's man. Just like, he wasn't into lifting weights. He was just fit, burly, hairy chest, and just rocked it. Stash forever. One of the best dudes of all time.
Absolutely. I think it has to be Burt Reynolds if you just compare him to Happy Gilmore, just because Burt Reynolds, we said that, Happy Gilmore took it from hockey to golf, but Burt Reynolds took it over multiple decades to come back and beat the guards for the second time. Air Bud or Seabiscuit? Boys, who do you have?
I'm going to do Air Bud.
Air Bud,
sure.
yeah.
Just, real quick, there are 12 Air Bud movies. Air Bud, Air Bud football, Air Bud soccer, Air Bud baseball, Air Bud volleyball.
Yes.
Then
This is where they lose me. After this one, they lose me.
Then it spans into buddies. I guess he had kids. And the kids go to snow, they go to space, they see Santa, they go Halloween with Spooky, Treasure Buddies, all the way to Super Buddies. We've gone from Air Bud playing basketball to Super Buddies, they're superheroes, in the span from 1997 to 2013.
Yeah, and the names of these are great, too.
Name a greater.
I don't know
Series.
that we can come up with anything to beat Air Bud at this point.
The name of these are just adorable, too. We got Air Bud, Golden Receiver. Air Bud,
receiver.
Air Bud, 7th inning fetch. And then Air Bud 3.
They basically
Air Bud 3.
They basically dropped an Air Bud every 2 years from 1997 until 5 years ago.
They took care of me. They knew that I didn't like anything other than sports as a child, and I wouldn't watch a movie unless it was either
Disney had you on their finger with Air Bud.
It was either A, Jim Carrey, or B, sports related. So what did they do? They all sat down and they're like, hey, this guy loves dogs. This guy loves sports. We're going to make a mixture to where he gets both in his movies. We'll drop one every 2 years so he doesn't get bored. I have every single one of the first 5 Air Buds at my house on VHS.
Oh, my Lord.
You can borrow them if you want, Mr. Shepard. Your kids will love them.
I don't have any space with my Seagal. I don't have any room to put them.
And they're on VHS, too. Those are thick.
So, Burt Reynolds or Air Bud?
I'm going Air Bud over Burt.
Yeah, we can go ahead and go with Air Bud.
I think Air Bud's it. All right, so we're at our final 3 here. We have Rocky Balboa versus Air Bud versus Willie Beeman. 3-man Royal Rumble. Who's taking home our stake as greatest athlete in movies of all time?
I think we should all make an argument for our person.
Well,
Mr. Shackford, take Rocky.
I mean, Rocky's pretty much cut and dry. The dude's tough as a $2 steak. He never quits. And any obstacle you put him in against, he's going to come out on top, or he's going to have a life lesson for you afterwards.
Willie Beeman, we talked about it already. Stepped into the offense, changed it. His job, got a big raise somewhere else. And he did anything Air Bud does, but he does it with a hangover. Clearly, the best athlete of these 3 is Willie Beeman.
The greatest athlete, the greatest movie athlete of all time, obviously has to be Air Bud. Not only was this man, you talk about Willie Beeman surviving on nothing but alcohol and drive to win. You talk about Rocky Balboa, who's surviving on nothing but Philly cheesesteaks and heart and soul to win titles as an American. You look at Air Bud. Air Bud was the inventor of eating nothing but pudding cups and still being a high-level athlete. Did you guys watch any Air Buds?
I
said no. I've never seen
the one.
Okay, so in these Air Bud movies, the way that he got the dog to basically come in and be his buddy was he'd take a pudding cup, he'd open it up, and he'd set it out there, and this dog would just come in and eat the pudding cups. This dog survived on nothing but snack packs and kibble his entire life, and he still managed to be a high-level athlete, not only in basketball, but football and soccer and volleyball and baseball. And he had some of the greatest names whenever you look at movie titles ever. The Golden Receiver, boys. We're talking about the Golden Receiver. We're talking about the man who invented the 7th inning fetch.
Well, they don't know who the Black Lab.
Huh?
I wanted that movie he was a black lab.
No, they had to go with a gold lab. That way it could say golden receiver.
Yeah.
They had to do that.
Had to.
And they backed themselves into a corner for 12 more movies.
I'll say this: if you're going from span, basically by any metric, it has to be Air Bud. He plays every sport.
Yes, I'm telling you.
He's got more films,
metric.
and he probably grossed more money than all the Rockies combined.
Probably.
Just due to sheer mass of a decade of dropping these children's movies. You've persuaded me. I'm going to go Air Bud.
I think it has to be Air Bud.
I'm not voted here. I think it's Willie Beeman, but I'm fine with Air Bud being the sports
I
champion.
like Willie Beeman so little, I've had to choose a dog.
You know what? You know what?
You backed yourself into a corner here.
You know what? I have a movie on DVD. I'm gonna give it to you. Watch it by next week, and please bring it back to me this time.
In 2 years, I'm going to bring it back to you.
All right, so Air Bud is now the greatest movie athlete of all time.
I guess he has to be. I mean, just looking at his Wikipedia and from what you're telling me how good the movies are, he has to be.
All right, I'll let you borrow Golden Receiver. I'll bring you
I
the
can't
VHS.
wait. I can't wait. My girls will love this movie. I'm already stuck watching all 55 Air Buds.
Yeah, I cannot wait.
Space buddies, spooky buddies.
I've seen Snow Buddies before. I did not realize it was in the same vein. So I have seen Snow Buddies.
It's in the same
Oh,
family.
you've seen that?
Yeah, because my daughter, like 5 years ago, we rented Snow Buddies. So, but I didn't realize that it was part of the Air Bud series.
Yeah, you didn't realize you were watching the greatest athlete of all time.
They snuck me in.
I absolutely love it. I can't wait because whenever they end up playing the loud horn that allows us all to go outside again, Mr. Shackelford is going to be sitting in his house watching the 12th movie in a row of Air Bud, and he's going to have a golden retriever by the end of all of this.
God, no.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the funniest apocalypse trends. So, guys, we're in a weird spot. A lot of people are doing a lot of weird stuff. You don't really learn about a person until they're locked up in their house for 2 consecutive weeks, posting nothing but just junk on social media. So what would you guys say is the weirdest trend that you have noticed during this whole quarantine?
I've noticed that this is a really odd trend, and it continues for some reason. People keep going outside and going to bars, and people are just like, just don't do that, because clearly that's not what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a weird trend. That's just people doing what they know.
People being stupid. I saw a statistic pop up that, like this age group, like 20 to 50, they didn't think was going to be affected at all, basically. And in America, our numbers, that's like our highest population. To me, it's pretty clear why. Because those people won't stop going to parties and stuff,
No, yeah.
I watched a video of a chick drinking a beer out of another chick's butt crack, and then a guy snuck in at the very last second. I don't even count him. That was a week ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
They got all kinds of stuff. Corona may be the least of their worries for those spring breakers.
And pink eye for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think for me,
What if we end up getting a pink eye outbreak because of
God! I think for me, the biggest trend, the funniest biggest trend is celebrities. Sam, he's a sad singer to begin with. I can't.
Sam Hunt.
Sam Hunt has probably the most famous one right now of him posting pictures and videos of him during this tumultuous time of him crying because he's so sad he's quarantined. It's been like a week.
Yes.
It's been like a week since they've said, hey, it'll be best to get inside.
Hey, Sam Hunt, try this just in a 700-foot home.
It's unbelievable. These people are so self-absorbed and wimpy that they cannot handle being inside for more than a few days.
Yeah.
The world doesn't need a guy like Hitler to end it. The world doesn't need an asteroid to end it. It just needs to be like, hey, you can't leave your house for a week.
Yes.
Half these people are going to croak just from heartbreak.
No, I absolutely agree. My favorite thing possibly is the amount of athletes that are like, not just athletes, but famous people in general posting these videos, just like you said with Sam Hunt. And a lot of these people are like, oh, the quarantine life isn't that bad, you know? You just hang out at home. And they're sitting there in like a 10,000 square foot home with like and they're in a warm climate, and they've got like a pool out there with a hot tub, endless cigars if you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, and like talking about how, you know, oh, I actually like this.
Yeah.
What? No shit. You like sitting in this 10,000 square foot home that has a basketball arena in the basement, and you have endless supplies outside where you can just sit there, grill out for 10 straight weeks. I could do that too.
Doesn't seem too bad, does it?
The funniest thing, though, is it took us about 24 hours of being self-quarantined to come up with a video of everybody sending each other doing push-ups.
Push-ups.
And I am all on board for this. The only thing I don't like, though, is that now we've went from 10 push-ups to where everybody's wanting to do 40 push-ups or 50 push-ups.
Whoa, that's getting into the range where I can't hit them.
Exactly.
Like 10, 20, 30. It's a burn. 40. Okay, we're reaching peak push-up for me right now.
I got challenged to a 10 pull-ups with a 40-pound weight, weight dangling
That's
off.
the try-hards. That's
I'm like,
too
hey,
much.
I'm not touching the weights, because not only am I touching the pull-up bar, which might have coronavirus all over, I'm not touching the weight. So that's my reasoning for not going out there and bumping out all those pull-ups, because obviously I'd throw on 90 pounds, you know? But I can't do that. So I think that the push-up, the fitness trend, the in-home workouts has to be the funniest thing of this whole entire thing, because it didn't. That took less than 24 hours. Everybody's like, oh, you took my gym away from me? People are more upset that they can't go work, that they can't go to work out, than they are that they can't go to work.
I have a friend. We've discussed him. He's got a cough. He got sent home from work for a cough. He will not stop asking me to work out.
I got a text from the same guy yesterday.
I told him explicitly.
I didn't even text him back.
I said, no, you're coughing. He called me a fear monger. He said it's fake.
He told me you're a politician.
Germs. Yeah, he's making me sound. He sounds like he's straight from a political party. He's out hitting my heavy bag in my backyard, going, stay away from me. Just listen to people. Listen to people. Stay home.
They know what they're doing.
Do some push-ups. Do some sit-ups.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, what the
hell?
Just send me you doing 10 push-ups, 40 sets of them.
Yeah, you're
over
fine.
and over.
That's all the workout you need.
Oh man, people are losing their mind just because they can't work out.
It's an unbelievable age we live in, and the thing about the celebrities is exactly like you said. They have this beautiful. Sam Hunt he probably has the equipment to write an entire new album while he's locked up. He's not. It's not like he's one of the American people that have lost their job. You know, LC's gonna fall in this, even though it wasn't coronavirus related.
Look out!
You know, it's tremendous how quickly things went to doo-doo with some people on this planet.
No, it is.
You had asked. Maybe we can transition to this real quick. What has it changed about our lives or what we've been doing? I've been building a fence for like 4 days, doing nothing but digging 2-foot post holes and carrying 60 pounds of concrete for 4 straight days. I do have a funny story from that. I don't think I'm going to have time to tell it today. We'll save it for next week. All I've been doing, playing with my kids, watching movies with my daughters, building that fence and walking my dogs. My dogs are happy as hell. They've never been walked so much in their 2-year crumb bum life. I know last week I told you guys they'd be the first thing to be killed and eaten in my house. Probably still the same, but at least they're getting their exercise in during this.
You're just trying to get them lean.
I got a text from my household while I was sitting here. The one dog went inside, ate. There was at least 10 of these 10 chocolate chip cookies I baked last night with my daughter, ate every one of them, and yesterday We made some homemade donuts with some grease. I poured the leftover grease in a bowl. He lapped up every bit of that grease that was sitting on my stove and ate every cookie that was on my table. Now you know why I'm eating these guys first.
You did that on purpose because you're fattening them up for whenever you are going to eat them.
Just in case, baby. Just in case.
And you're working them out so you have lean meat. Hey, you're ahead of the curve here, man.
So I will say this. We went on our trip to New Orleans. Then I went on a trip to Ohio. I was 245. I was back up to my heavy 245. Since I've been working on this fence daily, carrying all this stuff, weighed myself last night, I was down to 238. I've actually lost like 6 pounds during the apocalypse, and I promised myself I wouldn't touch a weight or go on a jog until I got this fence done.
And here you are.
All I'm doing is...
all you're doing is...
If I had an actual man's job, I might actually have an actual man's body.
That's what I was getting ready to say. If you would be peak Burt Reynolds if you actually worked a man's
threaten
work.
me. I'll quit my gig right now and just start carrying stuff for a living.
Just carrying stuff for a living. What do? I carry things.
I carry whatever you need.
Oh, yeah. No, how it's affected my life, I ended up watching Marbles and WWE, old WWE videos all day Saturday. I watched Marbles, I watched Dodgeball, and I watched fights the other day, and I was screaming at the fights, and there were fights that I already knew the outcome in. The Kevin Gastelum, Israel Adesanya fight, I watched it again. And I was still screaming at the TV.
Is that when I got the text that said I might be, if I'd ever reach peak performance, Kevin Gastelum's who I'd be?
Yes.
I'm actually a little mad at that because I think I actually have more abs than Kevin Gastelum does right now.
You might, honestly.
I think I do.
But you have that weird body type like we just hit. It just depends on what you're doing.
Exactly.
And I think if you were training for a fight, you'd be less in shape than you actually just going out in the yard making a
And there's no actual better comparison since he misses weight about every other fight. So and then all his countdown videos, he's like, I had some tacos today. I deserve a little. That's me. I'll do good for a week, working out, eating real good, and I'm like, I deserve a little break, and I'll eat a ice cream cake from Dairy Queen. You know. Like that's that. Me and Kevin Gastelum we might be twins.
Yeah,
so.
you're like a half a pound ahead on your weight cut, and you're like, man, I deserve some tacos for this. Let's just go ahead and get me a 12-pack and a pound from Taco John's, and I'll be set. So, anything else you guys want to discuss before
Leighton didn't tell us about his post-apocalyptic life.
My quarantine. My Mount Ultimate team's better than I thought it could be.
Oh, my Madden Ultimate team's killing me.
They thought it'd be this good. Let's see.
You're going to be watching the Rockies this week.
I'm watching the Rockies this week. I'm going to go from currently watching the Marvel movies from start to finish. There's a lot of those. And I got to revisit Curb Your Enthusiasm, which has reminded me that my inner voice is definitely Larry David. Because that show, Jay, I don't know if you watch Curbed or not, Larry David basically just very misogynistic and straightforward and asshole. And like he can't let anything go ever. And what he says on the show, I think when shit happened, like, wow, that is me.
Larry David
made Seinfeld.
Him and Seinfeld made Seinfeld.
Okay.
But Costanza is Larry David.
Okay, I know
But
exactly.
Didn't they always say that Costanza was like a buffered down, polished version of the real Larry David? So Curb, I haven't seen it. I don't know why I haven't.
You haven't seen Curbed?
No, I haven't. And
Dude.
I've always wanted to see it, but I've never had HBO.
Is this a TV show?
Yeah, it was on HBO. I've heard nothing but amazing things about Curb, but just when you think like, oh man, this dude's a heightened version of Costanza, you think, holy shit, how has that guy made it through life?
Yeah, how is that possible? That's unbelievable. So we will next week we will visit Mr. Shackelford's funny story about him losing a ton of weight, and
yeah,
I'll be down to 228 next week.
We will get his new review on
we need you to weigh
Sunday.
in too. We'll have to get you to weigh in. You'll have to watch Any Given Sunday.
And I have to weigh in. I don't want to weigh in.
Latency will watch all of the Rockies, and I'm going to get back to my book. Okay. I did read a little bit.
You read a little bit and then went away?
Over 10 pages.
Over. Well over.
Okay, that's
nice.
Not bad.
Yep. So hopefully I'll have a little bit to.
What was the title? Because you sent me a picture. It was Tyson
Behind the
Fury,
Mask.
Right? Okay.
My autobiography.
So it was a sports book.
How many times? You have me all the time to read a book. How many times do you lose track of what you were reading to go back and read it again?
Never.
I mean,
I'm an avid reader, Leighton said.
I would call myself an avid reader, and that happens to me every time I read.
That happens all the time.
Every single time I read. Matter of fact, usually when I end, I'll usually flip back 2 pages and then put my bookmark, because I know if I get to an ending point, those last 2 pages I probably spaced out on.
Yeah, I'll be like skim the chapter real quick. Okay, yeah. Because you don't start out finishing a chapter. You can skim the chapter.
That's right.
Finishing.
All right. So we all have homework this week. Hopefully next week we'll see Mr. Shackelford down to a solid $1.25. And on that note, for Drake, for Mr. Shackelford and Leighton C., Dippers as always, stay saucy.